Before we begin, I feel like I have to comment on the MCPD body cam footage that was released earlier today involving Montgomery County police officers, MCPS administrative staff, and a 5-year-old child and his parent in my district at East Silver Spring Elementary School. I'm sure many of you have already seen the footage or will see it in the coming days. I am completely horrified and disgusted by what I saw. The incident is absolutely unacceptable. No one, especially not a young child, should ever be treated this way by the people tasked with keeping our community safe. As the parent of 2 young sons, I can't imagine any of our staff treating my children or the children of any of my constituents the way that child was treated. And I want to extend my deepest apologies to the family. This footage should have been released to the council and the public months ago. Our community deserves to hear directly from the county executive and the police chief about what actions they plan to provide justice for this traumatized family and to make sure a situation like this never happens again. I'll recognize any of my colleagues if they have anything to say about this, or we can get to the Board of Health regulation. Councilmember Navarro.
Yes, I want to say that I echo your comments, and as a mother, this is an absolutely horrifying footage. I also want to deeply apologize to this family and really to all of our residents in Montgomery County. This is absolutely unacceptable. It is absolutely shocking. I watched it and could not stop. It's a mixture of just rage and just real sadness. So I also join in your observations about the fact that this council should have received this footage and should have been given ample time. And we have been requesting this. So this is also a real concern regarding the way that the administration handled this particular footage. And there is much to be now there's much accountability that needs to take place, but I also wanted to join in apologizing and expressing my absolute disgust as a mother and also as a resident of this county. This leaves a lot to be desired. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it was truly sickening. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too remain horrified at what I watched on that body camera footage of the MCPD picking up a 5-year-old child outside of his elementary school and then beginning to scream at him and call him bad and said that he needs to be beaten. Deeply disturbing for everybody who sees it. And this is seared into my mind as anyone who watches this video witnesses a little boy being met with anger and hostility by our law enforcement personnel, who then advocated that his mother engage in child abuse. It is shocking and terrifying on so many different levels, but ultimately we all need to come together to ensure that this never, ever happens again, and that no child should suffer abuse at the hands of police, and that no parent should ever have to witness such appalling actions. Thank you.
And then later coaching the parent on how to hit the kid without triggering a charge of child abuse is, I have no words. Councilmember Glass. I'm sorry, Councilmember Reamer.
It was terrible. Just to say the words, they put a 5-year-old child in handcuffs. I can't even say those words without getting emotional. And so many other things that happened in that footage that come through. But just to think what it takes, what a mistake of judgment to put a 5-year-old child in handcuffs. It's an absolute disgrace.
I had no idea we had handcuffs that would work on a 5-year-old. Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Katz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I too want to be associated with what has been said by my colleagues. All of us have been horrified. Obviously, I have not watched the entire video. We received it, as everyone on this call knows, we received it a few moments before it was released. And I've been on several Zooms since, so I haven't had a chance to actually view it. I have heard from others what it is showing. And this is not only not acceptable behavior on the part of any of us, but it's certainly not indicative of our police department in general. We have a police department that handles things usually, as far as we have known, in a much better and in a fairer way. So to the points that have been made, that this should never happen again, we all agree with that. To the points that have been made that we need to make certain that this never happens again, we all agree with that. And I believe that we all need to come together to once again remind everyone in Montgomery County that this will not be tolerated. Thank you.
Council Vice President Albornoz.
I have 4 kids, as you all know. One of them is turning 5 a little later this year. I have no words. It was almost impossible to entirely be able to process what we witnessed on that video. We need a total and completely transparent investigation into this matter, from top to bottom, from bottom up. This is not us in any way, shape, or form. And to the family who has gone through this, I can't even imagine or process what pain you are all feeling right now. And as the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, I also, in addition to this investigation, want to focus, as I'm sure all of my colleagues do as well, on the social and emotional aspects of this particular case. For those all of those directly involved and all of those indirectly involved as well. I do expect this body to be formally briefed in the immediate future on what transpired, so that we can learn from this, and so that obviously we make sure that this never happens again. I share the anger and frustration of all of my colleagues, and I look forward to receiving that briefing so that we are able to move forward and learn from this horrific incident. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dwanda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
Mr. President, you know, I echo and appreciate all my colleagues making those comments. You know, this is one of those things where I don't know where to start. I couldn't even watch it. I couldn't finish it. I had to break it up into multiple sessions, just because it was unbearable. And that's after having read the plaintiff's lawsuit and what was alleged, and kind of knowing what I was getting myself into. When that came to light in January of this year, a year after the incident happened, which is completely unacceptable. The Council Vice President's point, to the Council President's point, that we found out because a lawsuit was filed and we weren't notified by our police department, by our school system, or by anybody that this had happened. So when I found that out and my colleagues found that out, we requested from the police department and the school system to find out what happened. 3 months passed with no response. And then we're sent something today. It's absolutely unacceptable. So that's the process part. So I agree with, we need a full investigation, and we need to know what happened and what the discipline was. And to our colleagues in Annapolis, because I can see this already coming, that there are these are personnel files and we're not going to be able to look at them. Well, then that law needs to change in Annapolis. And that's why we've taken positions on that. Now, to this young child and to this family, I am so sorry. I echo my colleagues. The father of 3 young girls and a little 2-year-old boy, even if you're not a parent, that shouldn't have happened to any human being by anyone who represents particularly Montgomery County and who's charged with protecting and serving us. Calling him a nasty little thing, saying they're going to beat him, putting him in handcuffs in the back. It's just unfathomable and then the MCPS employees who stood there and watched it happen and didn't intervene. This is a failure of multiple systems and individuals, and there needs to be full accountability on all sides. And I'm just so sorry to this family. It's one of the reasons we've embarked on this work to remove police from schools in an enforcement and disciplinary capacity. And that's what we need to continue to do. So I appreciate the chance to make a few comments, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson.
Struggling to come up with the words to express how I feel, and still processing what many of us have just seen. I share all of the comments that have been made by colleagues. I share the frustration with the process, but this is just an absolutely comprehensive failure, not just of policy and of laws, but of basic humanity. I mean, the idea of 5-year-old boys being handcuffed, of people in positions of public power threatening, suggesting child abuse. It is so unacceptable, so unfathomable, so far beneath what we expect and what residents expect of those who are in positions to protect them. In the police department, in the school system, this is just a top to bottom failure. I'm appalled, I'm horrified, I'm truly shaken by this, and share the need for a comprehensive investigation. We're behind. The notification that has come to this council and to the public is woefully unacceptable and completely inadequate. And there is significant accountability to the public that is needed moving forward. But most importantly, I wanted to add my voice to the sincere apologies to the family that have been victimized. And we have a lot of work to do. There's just no doubt about that.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
So I can't add much more to what's already been said. Let me just again to say ditto to everything that my colleagues have said. And, you know, this is something where, again, unfortunately, when these kinds of issues are highlighted, help us to get better as a system. But it by no means is an excuse for the actions that were made. But we have to be vigilant in the fact that we understand that, you know, there are going to be, unfortunately, people who do the wrong things. And we've seen that on so many levels, as you heard. And because they did the wrong things, we have to correct them. We have to give assistance where assistance is necessary in order to prepare people for better interactions. But at the same time, if they're not appropriate for the particular positions that they're in, if they can't understand how it is that you deal with a child, and that's not the same way you deal with an adult, and that's not the same way you deal with a person. As you've heard, some of the words that were said were incredibly hurtful to this young boy. And so when you think about that, we don't want that to be said to any of our constituents, regardless of how they are. These all are things that we have to fix with our system. But I want to be very clear that we can't fix them. There is a way for us to move forward from this and learning and growing and being an even better system for our constituency. And I promise to work along with my colleagues to make sure that we get there. It's clear that this was a complete failure, and we're going to have to do a lot of work if we're going to be responsive, supportive, and really providing positive experiences for our community when it comes to our police and our school system. So thank you.
Thank you, colleagues.